Hey gang, welcome back. Larry from Snake River Fly. January 15th. Starting to get pretty cold here in the southeastern Idaho. Chilling out, so we're getting some more time behind the vise. Following up on some ideas. We've been chasing around. So anyway, we've got a new one. Been working on balancing a stonefly nymph for quite a while. Definitely some really good ones out there for sure. But just working on our tweak of it. And fishing them, you have to size them down a little bit. We found to run them off a dry dropper, like making, that bigger, like especially like 6 and 4 nymph or something, and hanging it off of a big floaty bug. It's a little tough, so we found that we have had to size down a little bit. We're tying it off the balanced leech format, basically. We've got a badass hook. The Tagata from Moonlit in a size 8. That's a 5.0, 5.11. Anyway, a little bit longer shank on that balanced, on that 60-degree jig. Still has the vertical or side eye, however you want to call it. But a little bit longer shank. A really cool competition tip that's a little bit longer with a great gap. So this is going to be a little bit of a tweak from our Montana Pat stonefly that we did a couple years ago. Basically kind of a souped up Pat's rubber leg. And so ticking on these ones, since we've sized down a little bit, we don't want them quite as heavy. We're not putting a big tungsten bead on the front of this. I'm doing some bead chain eyes, and I'm guessing, whatever size they are. Pretty small. These ones are orange. I'm just hitting them with a Sharpie to make them black, but any bead chain eye would work just fine. Just not looking for that heavy tungsten bead. You could tweak this a little bit and put some of the cool stonefly heads or that kind of thing on it. It'd be cool too, but we're just doing some bead chain. It's cheap, it's easy, it's going to keep the fly killed, and not too heavy to hang off of that dropper. So we've tied a lot of flies in our tutorials over the years, and the way we like to tie in a body wrap, a lot of times just coming from like tying commercially and stuff and making stuff tougher, is we like to double the length and go a little bit smaller. So this is kind of a medium chenille. We have this here in a couple colors at the shop, 2 or 3. Anyway, we'll put that up on it when we post it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, and instead of tying that in, like by a tip and then wrapping myself forward with a single strand, I like to, find where I want to make that bulk. We're not going to do lead on this bug. So I kind of want a real nice taper up to center of the shank here. And so I'll use this medium chenille, variegated olive and beige or tan or something. And I'll fold that over the hook like so. We do the same thing on the burnt toast. And there's this knuckle right here, if you will, or this hump where our balanced leech pin ended, and that's where I'm going to tie those in. And stoneflies are pretty beefy, especially in the nymph stage, and so tying them in 2 at a time also kind of gives you a flat, add some beef to it, that type of thing. I put some rubber legs on there earlier, just our stonefly laser legs tied in there. And so now what I'll do is I'm going to come forward to mid shank on this guy, and I'm going to actually wrap these pieces of chenille, or this piece of chenille, 2 at a time. I'm going to pull it forward like that. I'm going to keep these pretty close, 2 at a time, 2, 4, 6, and I'm going to stop right there at mid shank. And I'm going to tie this so, like the Montana Pats, our leftover chenille is tied on the top of the hook shank, which will be the bottom of it if it keels right, and it builds that bulk. So now we're going to take our Hydro Hackle. Been playing with this in a lot of different colors, but the mocha seems to fit nice with this, kind of golden stone that we're doing here. We also been doing it in the dark brown, and some of the golds looks really good too. But this stuff's really kind of cool in aspect for me. I kind of grew up in the age of the rubber leg, and tied a ton of flies with rubber legs on them. Super awesome. I love it. They work great, but it's the hardest part of the fly typically. So we've been playing in the last few years with, you know, some long body wraps that can simulate those legs, you know, without having to, like, you know, go slopping or hackle or something that, you know, you get every inch of a synthetic, you know, when you buy it, and it's cheap and it's easy and you can ship it across borders and all that stuff. So anyway, this is the Hydro Hackle and Mocha. You know, any color combination that you want for your local waters would be great. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a lighter colored chenille, like, you know, our thorax color. Like to do that like we did on our Montana Pats. Lighter colored thorax. Little wing case is going to go on in this one and all that jazz. This is medium chenille as well. I think we called this one Golden Stone maybe. Anyway, we have it on the site. So what I'll do is I'm going to come up here behind this. I've got a gap. I've got, you know, the body chenille material in here is a bigger diameter than I am up here by my eyes. I'm going to use that chenille like we did before to kind of fill that gap and build that same kind of bulk that you would using lead wire on, you know, the Pat's rubber leg. So we don't want this one to be near as heavy. This is just your classic 3-foot dropper on the Box Canyon. This thing's rolling below, you know, your favorite foam, bear hair, whatever, and it's on. But anyway, this is the Golden Stone. The thorax is going to be different color. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap that thorax right up to behind the eyes. It varies, 4 wraps it looks like here. And sometimes you can kind of bury that jig hook or that eye that sticks up. But if you pay attention, you can lock it in and still leave that exposed. I'll just go ahead and clip that, pull it out to the side here because my eye is in the way. Okay, we still haven't flipped this fly over. Probably won't, actually. But we've tied off that thorax. And so now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and put our legs in, just like the hackle on the original Montana stone. They used a black hackle or a brown hackle to wind through this thorax. I'm going to use the Hydro and Mocha. I'm going to do 3 wraps up to behind the eyes. This is going to be the legs on this stonefly nymph. We've done these legs on plenty of dries too. I think a tutorial a couple years ago we did, you know, like a chubby cherub with these instead of rubber legs, and it works just great, right? Super easy to do as well. So I'm just gonna go ahead and trim a little bit and pull a little bit, do a little grooming on this, because this is the bottom of our fly the way it's going to ride, but it's top of our fly the way we tie it. And just like a lot of those perdigons that we've been figuring out, it's okay to tie them upside down, have the wing case on the bottom, because a lot of times that's what the fish is seeing first anyway. And nature just kind of tumbles that way, if you will. So what I'm going to do now is a couple more security wraps right there just to make sure I don't mess this up for you guys on camera. And I'm going to jump forward on that pin in front of my bead chain eyes. And now I'm going to take another piece of our laser legs and I'm just going to tie an antenna, my rubber legs antenna, which I think is half the time the most important part of a stonefly nymph, you know, like Pat's or any other really good ones. Antennas and tails are pretty prominent. Legs are too, of course. But like I said, you know, rubber legs in the middle of this mess, it's kind of complicated. Maybe a touch overkill for these medium-sized nymphs anyway. So now what I'm going to do, just like the Montana Pat, we're going to take that leftover chenille. We tied it in, folded in half, so we worked with 2 pieces. that gives us two pieces and the symmetry, if you will. So instead of just one coming over here, we're gonna have two coming over like so. You can definitely do this on the bottom of the shank to ride that way too, but it's just, we found that it's easier to tie it this way. I'm gonna stretch those out, and right in front of my bead chain eyes on that balanced leech pin, right where I tied my rubber legs in, my antennas, excuse me. Go ahead and pull that over as a wing case. And then, you know, I got a little bit of room. Every fly is gonna vary, but I feel good that I can fold that back just to really pinch that in. Then I'll clip them as clean as I can, and then we'll just stretch a whip finish over the top of this. That's going to give you that, you know, wing case that the stonefly has. It's going to give it a dorsal and a ventral view, you know, some coloration difference. Everything counts when it comes to fishing stonefly hatches, right? In the West, they see a lot of traffic, and so, you know, you got to be a little tricky on occasion. And these balanced fly idea works really, really good as a dropper, we found. And Chanel's always been really cool as a body for these nymphs. Just cut my antenna. You know, I don't know, you see people cutting them even, cutting them short. From what I've noticed, you know, and on our rivers, we always have our antennas longer than our tails. I don't know. Could just be something mental, but you have basically that bug. Like I said, we didn't go jumbo. You definitely could tie this on a big hook and put a bead on the front of it and wrap some lead on it, and it would be definitely a slightly spicy version. Well, actually a really good substitute for the Pat's rubber leg. You know, but we're tying it as a balanced dropper. Not a ton of weight on this, just some bead chain eyes. It balances, but you know, doesn't necessarily have to. I'm not looking to make it perfect. And I want to hang it 3 feet off of my big dry, and that is old, I don't even know what we call it. We'll figure out the name. Anyway, balanced stonefly nymph, dropper nymph, tied on the Moonlit Wicked Tagata 8s. We got some Hydro Hackle in there. We got some of our medium Chanel that's on the site. Got our laser legs on there. You know, bead chain eyes. We probably can find those for you, but give this one a try. A lot of fun, a lot of mileage going to come out of this one, I hope. Just as far as people tweaking it and stuff, I could see it going total crazy crawfish, yada, yada, yada. But appreciate it a bunch. Thanks for watching. Hydro Hackle dropper stone nymph thing.